Good evening, brothers, and welcome back to the Order. Today I'll be talking about another one of my submarines, the CV-20 Nosorog. I actually think this is one of my better submarines, ironically enough, despite it not being particularly popular. It features drop pods, good for sending teams down into caves, with a slightly different design to the hammers, and it's decently well armed. It's got some fun gimmicks that I look forward to showing you. So let's get started. There's also a few pieces of environmental storytelling I have to remember to show off. I had a bit of a fun idea for how this submarine operated and worked. So the sort of idea of the submarine was that it was the brainchild of two separate engineers, or architects, whatever you'd want to call them, who all had their own ideas of what the submarine should even be. So there's sort of this clash of styles, and it's clear that they were compromising with each other as they designed it. So, keeping in line with something I did with the hammer, the airlock is actually quite contained to join another station. This is because one of the two, I can't remember which, was quite paranoid. So, when you first enter, you end up in this kind of tube, and then there's a hatch on the bottom to climb down, with a stern warning, cause no trouble. And the name of the submarine and a big little banner. I'm fond of these on ships, because, the idea of, you want to know, help remind people where they are, what they're standing in, I guess. I don't know. Seems like a morale thing, some kind of patriotism thing. I actually had to try and do a bit of research into when Barotrauma was set for the little date there. This is my best estimate for a fairly early period in Europa's colonization. Would have been about 2118. I think they say it on one of the loading screens, or when you join the game even. I just skim that text now. Keeping in line with some of the things I got from the hammer, I got this kind of boxy design for the suit lockers. So there's just a little access way here. From here you can get straight into the gunnery, which I'm sort of going with a color scheme for the submarine. Lots of greens, oranges, and reds. It's got a double coil gun on the back. Pretty good defense. And you're listening to a turret sound overhaul mod that I forgot to show you in the mod list before we started, but I'll do it at the end, maybe, if I remember. There's also pulse lasers on the top and bottom with decent coverage. Over here is actually I'll save that one for last. It's the coolest. I tried sort of a scaffolding crane design for the pulse lasers. You can see something similar on the Herja, or Herja. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. I assume Herja, but where the guns are sort of located a little bit away from the submarine to get better coverage of the hull itself. And you may think, oh, that's pretty good coverage for the turrets. Yeah, well, you'll see. There are never other problems with it. There are other problems I put into the submarine. So, the bottom gun, probably the most impressive one. I actually designed it with I tried to make it look a little bit like a sort of auxiliary coil gun on the side of the big railgun. We'll have a better look at that later, but I did some fluff explaining for the ammunition for this game, for the coil guns and such. Had to research. I actually think I reverse engineered the weight of the boxes in the description, is it? I can't remember. I found a way to get a rough idea of the size of the projectiles we launch, and they're actually like 20mm aluminium darts, or whatever metal you make them out of, copper, whatever. Anyway, there's this button here, which you may guess arms the railgun and turns on that big scary light. It also changes the searchlight to red, and I'll just move the laser to make it a bit easier to see. I still need to put arrows on all my submarines. I need to put arrows on them all so you can actually see what you're aiming at. But yeah, it changes the lighting to red. That way the gunner knows if they're about to fire a coil gun dart or a railgun shell. There's also a section where, captain's calling out huge targets, huge target low, huge target low. Gunner's like, oh shit. Load the thingy. I totally meant to do that. Turn on the railgun and blast. It's actually very, very responsive. I wouldn't mind trying to experiment more with that with a submarine with toggled turrets. I tried to make a sort of like little glass, kind of make it look like this reactor is contained in a big glass shield. That's because when the designers were building this thing, they forgot where to put the reactor and had to improvise. So they've just put this like, radiation shielded room that was meant to be something else directly below the helm. So yeah, if you were being attacked by an enemy submarine from above and they were aiming for the helm anyway, you might have something bad happen. Yeah. Primary supercapacitor linked to all the rest. Electrical's down there, I'll show you later. The helm's a bit luxurious. Sort of got the vibe of an old-timey ship, at least that I was trying to go for. Yeah, little wine cabinet there, little personal locker here with some modded stuff in it. Aspartame, whatever. This is when I made this submarine is when they first added security cameras to the game, so I wanted to try one. I kind of really like this static-y overlay over these cameras. A bit hard to see anything if they're not already being lit up by the searchlights, though, which I'm not too unhappy with. I think in the editor they remove it, but there's a glow around the submarine when you play campaign anyway, so you'll probably be able to see better. But yeah, I like this kind of static-y vibe, and I wouldn't mind trying to see if I could get it to work for coil guns. As for the helm itself, this submarine has a rather unique configuration where the engines are on the front. In lore, that's supposed to make it easier for the submarine to tilt up or down, but obviously Futurama doesn't work that way. The submarines are always static. It'd be cool if they could tilt, but I think that would make the game even more ridiculous and hard than it already is. But fun anyway. So it's got the two frontal engines, which actually don't give it that much speed. The submarine's not designed for that. I just like the idea of twin engines at the front. There are other two buttons. There's, much like what I did on the hammer, I've got a sonar transducers. They're not that useful on the submarine compared to it. You can just look a bit further forward or back. Just give the captain something else to do while he has his forehead glued to the sonar away. One button that's kind of interesting is the one thing of Nosorog's value. I hope I'm saying that right. It's Russian for rhino, at least that's what S.t.a.l.k.e.r anomaly told me. Is it's got 3 ballasts, 3 sort of medium-sized ballasts for a sub this big. So it does dive decently quickly, but this Nosorog is capable of diving even faster because the cargo bay has doors. And we can tell the submarine to open those cargo bay doors, which will flood the cargo bay, and our descent will rapidly increase. Yeah. It's a bit more manageable than it sounds, but it also takes quite a long time to drain, so you want to be careful. Not sure why all that's blinking on and off. I might have to check that. We'll maintain position. The ballasts also drain at different rates. I'll explain why later. Oh, before I leave the helm, on the note of the captain being paranoid, this airlock is now locked. So you could do that if, say, station security were boarding you because someone stole a granola bar or killed someone, what have you. But you can lock it. Now, we'll do the front of the ship last because it's the most interesting part. Electrical is this sort of just simple setup down here, again with this sort of like Yeah, I want to say that it was in-universe the designs were incompetent. Maybe just I am. You know, kind of like these orange ballasts. Made my own little design for the pumps that I'm kind of happy with. This little access shaft. Here's where the supercapacitors are for the guns. So they're a little bit out of the way, but I kind of like this little lockery design. It reminds me of Dead Space or something. This office I'm pretty proud with. This almost looks like a professional submarine. With these airlocks, and you got this glass window that lets you see, most importantly, the cargo bay doors, because as we saw before, the captain can just open them whenever he wants. I would recommend bringing a suit in here anyway, just in case. Here's where all the cargo comes from. Now, I keep setting it up to be clean. Oh no, that's clean. These medicine cabinets are actually linked to the med bay, and what you can do is from the med bay you can supply cabinets all over the ship, so the crew has quick access to, you know, the easy to use medicines like bandages and, you know, saline and fentanyl, you know, all that shit that just anyone can stick in them. This pneumo chute, much the same. This is linked to the engineering bay, where the deconstructors and such are. So say you want to park this submarine on top of a wreck, or you know, even an alien ruin or something. We've got all these cargo bays where you can put stock in, sure. You can just open the cargo bay doors, swim straight out, throw crates back in here, someone can run them through there to cargo. Very efficient for salvaging. Yes. There's also a button to do it up here. Like it's kind of a little officey bit. I've always had this idea for a kind of hooked ship that has a cargo bay under it, so that's what basically the entire submarine was built around that shape. And then over time I got ideas for other things. Submarine's also falling apart because I haven't told anyone to maintain it. Oops. Down here is the armory. This I'm decently happy with. I kind of like the idea of a glass platform you walk around on. It reminds me of Halo or something. This locker design I had with the weapon rack inside, yeah, that's flat out ripped off a Halo. I even have the same panel design thing I did. Though this is from a submarine I haven't showed yet and isn't finished yet. I've been working on it for some time. But yeah, that's armory and such. I haven't locked it. I don't really like locking the parts of the sub so crewmen can't get in them. That does lead well to traitor gameplay, but when you're actually trying to run a submarine cooperatively, as I usually play the game, it's more difficult. We'll skip this room for now. I'll talk about it after. So, here is the fabricator, and here's more of the sort of clash of design. This is, you can imagine this is where a lot of people sit around during shift or on break. The fabricator itself appears to have a number and ticket-based system. Maybe the display is broken. Who knows? I did want the submarine to seem somewhat old. Yeah, the fabricator works here. It's linked to a crate down in engineering, which we'll look at in a minute. O2 generator here. Here is the med bay, which I tried to make it look a bit more ritzy. As you can see from the deconstructor, yeah, it's linked to all those cabinets. And when I built the submarine, I did have this arranged in a nice way. I can't remember how I did it, but every single time I launch the submarine, it seems to reset it. I'm not really sure how to do it properly. If anyone knows, wants to tell me in the comments, very happy. But yeah, here's the links to all those cabinets around the submarine, and then the one that's actually linked to the sub and the fabricator itself, as well as in a specific med box here, and a toxin cabinet. Very important. I like having beds on my submarines because they provide a good source of healing, and I figured this little like operating table would be a fine enough place. Can close that curtain and get a little bit of privacy while still being able to see around you. Pay no mind to the bloodstains. The doctor knows what he's doing. This big research cabinet. I've talked before about it. I generally do find it more engaging to play the game with all of the facilities on the submarine, just so there's less downtime on stations for everyone to start getting bored, because I do find that's the pattern when you play multiplayer in a campaign. This little bridge bit, this is like a little locker room slash storage. There's just a bunch of junk you can't interact with on this shelf. You can get on this shelf. Maybe there's a reason to. None's obvious. Oh my, blood's leaking down from the medbay. Ugh. So there's a locker for each class. I think I key-coded them, but I think Captain has universal access. I don't know if I did or didn't. It's more fun if you can steal each other's stuff anyway. So here's the first engine, down here, in a very, you might say, odd place. There's a little bit of clipping there. I have to remember to move the pump to the front so you can actually see it. Oops. Sometimes that happens. If things are on the same layer, they might seem good when you first build the submarine, and then later on it updates and they start to Z-fight, or one just randomly becomes dominant, so one's at the front and one's at the back. If you don't know what Z-fighting is, it's that thing where two textures are clipping into each other, so they constantly flicker between them. Can't think of what games you'd see it in, but anything where like models can clip into each other, you'd see it. So here's one of the pneumo chutes that leads directly to the deconstructor. That's because there's an airlock up there, so from any away section, you can minimize traffic by just sending stuff straight to the medbay. I think I got that design from Initial Disu. He's got a video on how to do it. You know, I wish I got made more use of it. Up here at the top is the second engine. Got this kind of big sloped bit. Good for if you crash into something and character gets ragdolled, you can slide all the way down and get concussed. You can see the Nosorog itself is in somewhat disrepair. This giant panel and all this scrap. Someone's obviously fixing something. We've even removed a piece of the cable, and yeah. The mechanic really should finish his job. But you can see is the second airlock. The bots look a bit weird when they run down there. Leads to the top. I think the submarine's stable enough for me to go out and look. So at the front here is the quote-unquote horn of the Nosorog. I should have checked this before I did the showcase, but there's some clipping issues. That's for smashing through ice spikes and such. I haven't talked about it yet, but you may have noticed there's these big glass domes. In the description of the submarine, they specifically describe how one of the designers insisted on the domes because he really liked the idea of how it would look. And everyone who's ever served aboard an Nosorog fucking hates them. And I'm sure you can guess why. Because they are a giant weakness for the sub, and the top of the submarine only has one gun, whereas the bottom has three. That's the top half. It looks like someone banged their noggin on the way down the stairs on this cabinet. Why am I full of glaring safety issues? So here's the engineering bay. In my mind, one of the highlights of the submarine. Spent a bit of time trying to decorate this and make it look good. Deconstructor D. Link to that. Storage. This one's just storage. And fabricator. This one's linked to the fabricator. Two batteries here. Pneumo chute for you to get things out of. No paratrauma. Yeah, I really need to figure out how to get this to stop happening. The way I made the pneumo chute work is it's connected to deconstructors that I don't want you to be able to use, so I just locked disposable diving suits into them, then tinted them black as if they're not meant to be there. No, in retrospect, I should have checked the color code of the background and tried to tint the suits to that. Maybe that'll work, but the idea is that you're only supposed to use this cabinet, which is linked directly to the deconstructor. Maybe the submarine isn't that great, I enjoy playing on it, though. Another ballast here. Both of these barrels are linked directly to engineering. Very handy for the mechanic. No entry sign. Oh, there seems to be something wrong with this pump. And there's a giant push caddy, giant metal push caddy with shelves in it here. It almost looks like someone pushed it and it fell through the hatch and damaged the pump, doesn't it? If you find this little thing, you can... Oh. If you find this little book, you can get a little bit of lore on the submarine. It does explain what happened there, among other things. Can you see that red X there? Now the bots will come and try to fix this if you, I guess, if we do it here, maybe. No. I think it's better from below. There's an X here as well. There's 3 ways to get to this, but you can cut into this little duct spot. Only works when the sub's flooded. Hang on. Straight down. Told you not to weld, you jerk. Not allowed in this door. Oi. Well, it's harder to show, but there's a fun package here. All kinds of fun goodies that I'm sure a clown would love. Meth, cyanide, detonators with IC4, a dimensionite screwdriver, the symbols, the horrible, horrible symbols. If you don't know what those do, that's going to be a surprise for you one day. Here's the lower airlock, which is basically just a tube that leads straight down. This can connect to structures and submarines. So yeah, it's a very convenient submarine. It's got these connections everywhere. Alright, time to finally show you. So as well as having a connection to the med bay, these are the drop pods with some diving gear here and here. Now these work very similar to the one on the hammer, but they're actually internally connected to the Nosorog. You can go straight into them, straight out. Actually a lot more like the shape the drop pods have in Halo 2 anyway. So I'll just get Marley to suit up. There are some quirks to them you have to watch out for. We have procedures for these things, gentlemen. So this little hangar bay, it's technically not in the submarine, technically not part of the, inner hull and such, but it is covered up by a big pair of doors. So, when the crewman gets into this, the first thing they need to do is, yes, push the green button. I actually labeled it. Docking toggle, floodlights, hatch toggle, all the same stuff as the hammer, but now the hatch is on top. You get these nice little windows to look out of it. All the horrible things. I'm going to set the sub to be stable now. Maybe I should have spawned an assistant to do this. No. Spawn. Cursor. Assistant. Should it work? is it? Oh, hang on, I think I have to... There we go. Never have enough. I'm sure I'll need them later. Attack of the clones. So, from these pod bay control panels, this is, I like to call these rooms mission control. First thing you have to do, open the airlock, which will put on this really annoying alarm. So, that is now open. If monsters get in there, it's basically impossible to deal with them, unless they break into the sub. So you want to be careful about leaving that open. They've closed the hatch, so now we can undock. Send the pod out. You can stand in it while it's moving around, you just might not want to because if you thunk into something and you're not in a chair, you can do this on any submarine. If you're in a chair and the submarine hits something, it won't ragdoll you. And getting ragdolled in this tight space, as you can imagine, might not be very good. But yes, these can go directly into caves, down to submarines that have been sunk, into the mouth of a latcher, any way you really want to be able to put it. And they can be controlled from up here, sent back up, back down. Why is it still going down? That's interesting. Man, I might have to throw this recording out. Everything's going wrong. That's not how they're supposed to work. It's only half full of water. Maybe something's changed on Barotrauma's end. Actually, what the hell? I don't even seem to have control over it anymore. Oh, we might have actually gone too far. I have control over it again. Alright, well, let's test the other one. I think I have some work to do before this thing's ready. Hopefully by the time the video comes up I've fixed all the problems. How would I undock you now? Come straight back up. Yeah, I have control of that one. I think it might just be out of range, so that person's doomed now, I think. Shame. Because if you don't know, the way this thing's set up is it's all connected together with Wi-Fi components, and they actually have limited range before they can send signals to each other. So, you know, you don't want to send the pods too far. I think by default it's about 200 meters, but I think I increased it to about 500. Let's double check that before we say anything. I don't want to get people killed for no good reason. No, the range is at infinite. This is another thing about making submarines. Sometimes things break and you're not sure why. And sometimes you can come up with solutions quickly, and other times... Oh, well, I know why that one's not coming back. It's because I forgot to close the hatch. So that one's wide open and filled with water. Oops. Can close it from the inside. That kind of moots the whole point of the experiment, doesn't it? Yeah, this one can maneuver just fine. You know, a professional YouTuber would cut all this out. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit interesting seeing me test things. Why not? Yeah, this one's in perfect control now. There must be some kind of... Maybe they've updated something about how Wi-Fi components work. Alright. I'm not sure. Leave it with me. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you'll enjoy playing on the CV-20 Nosorog. And till next time.